Hey Adventurers, so today is going to be another book tag. This is going to be the All About Titles book tag. I was tagged by Bookish Chaz, and this is kind of another one of those very surface level book tags. It's not really digging deep into the content of the stories, but rather it's about the titles. And it's kind of fun to do those sometimes because it allows you to branch out and just grab whatever books you want. So let's get into this. A book with a one-word title. I have a bunch of these and I realized afterwards that maybe I should have chosen a different one since I'm going to use the sequel to this book in a second here, but I decided not to, and I decided that I'm just going to go with what I wrote down, and that is Recorder by Kathy McCrum. This is a science fiction book that is about a recorder who is basically a government-sanctioned monitor. And they are human. They have these drones that helps them to record and monitor everything, events that happen, and they're not allowed to interfere. They're not supposed to interfere. I don't really know what else I want to say about this book other than that I do have a review of this one and the sequel, and I was drawn to this book because of the cover specifically. I thought the cover was very eye-catching and it intrigued me to see what this story was about. Question 2, or prompt 2, a book with a phrase in the title. This one was a lot easier. Basically every book that I own has a phrase in the title almost, and so I wanted to just pick one that I thought was an interesting phrase and that I could see being used for more than just specifically this related to the one book. And I can kind of see where this one might be used in other places, but anyways, the book is More Than a Gunslinger by J.R. Carroll. This is a More Than Human novel, so it's set in his More Than Human universe. It is not a direct sequel to any books, but it does take place in the same world, and there are some crossover characters that you find between his first book, which is More Than a Vampire, and then this book, which is More Than a Gunslinger. Self-published novel. It's a Western fantasy, not really Western, it's 1869 is the time period, so it is technically the Wild West time period, but it is not really set in what we consider the West, and we being Americans consider Western United States. That doesn't mean that it's not Western. It's very much kind of cowboyish in many ways, and I would actually lean more towards its tall tales, like the American tall tales, rather than Western. But still, cowboy fantasy or Western fantasy or whatever, however that you want to call that. Also low fantasy, because it is set on Earth with fantasy elements inserted onto our world. Very much in the vein of something like Dresden Files, actually. It's very similar in terms of world building. Prompt 3, a book with a sentence in the title. Now this is one that I had a very difficult time finding a book that is on my bookshelves that has an actual sentence in the title. And there's a couple, and after I finally found one that would work, I was able to find several more, but it's very difficult to find a title that actually has all the parts needed for a sentence, and yeah, it's surprisingly difficult to find. But I did find one, and that is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the third part of The Lord of the Rings, and it is The Return of the King is the title, and that is a complete sentence. I don't really need to talk about what The Return of the King is because I've not only talked extensively about it, but everybody knows what The Return of the King is and what The Lord of the Rings is. Prompt 4, a book with an unusual word in the title. And this is one, here's the one that's the sequel. It's unusual in that it's not used very often, but it is not a made-up word, it is not a fake word, it is a real word that we can use in our everyday speech, we just don't really. Partly because there's not a ton of times where it is necessary to use it. But that is Aberration by Kathy McCrum. This is a sequel to Recorder. This is one that I mentioned. Again, beautiful cover that really catches my eye and makes me want to read it. Again, sci-fi. If you want to know more about it, go watch the section where I talk about Recorder, but also go watch the review that I have of Recorder and Aberration. Prompt 5, a book with a name in the title. And this is one where I have tons and tons of books with names in the title. All of my Louis L'Amour books that are actually behind that pile there, and so you can't see them, but most of those, Lonergan, that's a book name. Kilkenny is another one. So there's lots, I do have lots of them. I could really look around at my list that I see here. I've got Pearls of Lutra, Marlfox, Howl's Moving Castle, Prince Caspian, just go through here. Voyage of the Basilisk. Basilisk is the name of a ship. I could really just go through my whole shelf and just start naming them off, and there's lots of them there. But the one that I decided to go with, and specifically because I haven't gotten a chance to show this book off very much yet, is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is Secret Project number 3, and Yumi is the name of a character, and that's good enough. So that's what the prompt is asking for, and I just wanted to show off this pretty book again because I like pretty books. I could talk a little bit about what Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is about, but I'm going to tell you, go watch my review, because some people don't like spoilers, and that will tell you it's a non-spoiler review, but it'll also give you a little bit more about it, and you just don't have to know anything more about it. Prompt 6, a book with a made-up word in the title. Again, I could have lots of options for this one. I mean, Chaos Bound, that's a made-up word, or it's actually 2 words put together. Rune Lords is 2 words put together. Lots of options that I could go with. The one that I decided to go with, probably surprising nobody, but that is The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. I love this book. I love this title. I love this word. This is actually a really good title, and this could fit this prompt later down the road. But I think that it's a great title because it kind of really just tells it's obvious that it is the Silmarillion. It's the epic story surrounding the Silmarils, and that's what the Silmarillion is about, and that's what the Silmarillion book is, and that's what it means. So, but I also wanted to show this pretty book off again. We've got the beautiful green sprayed edges with the elven writing there, and just very pretty. I like pretty books. Prompt 7, a book with a pun in the title. This is one that I don't know if I actually have something that is truly a pun in the title, but the one that I ended up going with is Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Taker, and that is one that you are allowed to tell me in the comments if you think that's a pun. Obviously the phrase is Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker, and the book, or the maker, was turned to taker because it fits the story better, but it's also kind of a pun, maybe? I'll let you guys decide and tell me in the comments below. Oh, I should talk a little bit about what that book is about. It's a murder mystery set in Spokane, Washington. 1901 is when it's set, and it is a murder mystery, and it is about really a whole bunch of several different characters that are the main characters. We have Archie, who is the engineer behind the Spokane Clock Tower, which hence the title of the series, which is the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. And then we also follow 2 brothers who are, one's a cop and one's a detective, I want to say. And then we follow several other characters just that they come in contact with and that are important to this story and to this 12-book series. I believe it's going to be 12 books because I believe each book takes place over the course of a month or something like that, and so we have 1 book for each month, and so we'll eventually have 12 books. And I believe the reasoning for this was because that's how long it took the Spokane Clock Tower to be built. I'd have to go back and reread the inspirations for this book, but I believe it was something like that. Prompt 8, a book with a title that describes it well. And this is one, again, the Silmarillion would be a good choice. The Fellowship of the Ring could be a good choice, but I decided to go with a little novella that I have. This is not available to purchase anymore. I was sent this by the author, but there is a short story collection by the same author that is available to purchase with a very similar title, and I'll get to that in just a second. But anyways, the title of this one is A Merchant in Oria by David Wiley. This is a novella about a merchant who is in Oria. It doesn't need much more than that, and that's basically what this is. And yeah, fantasy. It is a fantasy novella. Very, very fast read, but it was a lot of fun to read. I haven't read any more of David Wiley's writings yet, but I do want to, and I will eventually. But if you want to purchase A Merchant in Oria, he has released a collection of his short stories, including A Merchant in Oria, in a new collection, which is titled A Merchant in Oria and Other Stories. And again, that would also work, except that I don't physically own that book. I should also, I guess this is kind of a decent time to mention, I should have done it at the beginning, but all of these books are books that I physically own that are on my shelves, and that's why it made it so hard for me to select some of these ones, specifically a book with a sentence in the title. But continuing on, prompt number 9, a book with a title that doesn't describe it well. And here we go. Maybe a little bit of a contrary opinion here, but I'm going to go with The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. I love this book. I love the title. It's a very important book, and the title does make sense once you understand the story. But if you were to look at this title, The Two Towers, you think it's going to be about two towers. It's really not about two towers. It's about the effects that those two towers have, but even that's not entirely accurate. This is a story about the title says it's the two towers, and we also, as readers, don't even know, unless you have actually put in the time to figure it out, you don't know what two towers he's talking about, because there's actually at least 5 towers that he could be talking about. And we really don't know which two he's talking about, except that we do. The two specifically that he's talking about, and the reason why is because, so the two towers are Orthanc and Minas Ithil. The reason why those are the two towers that are being talked about is because the first half of the book regards how can I say this to make it clear? The first half of the book centers around events surrounding Orthanc, and the second half of the book centers around events surrounding Minas Ithil. And that is why that one is titled Two Towers, but it really doesn't describe the book, because you think it would be about the towers, but it's not about the towers at all. Prompt 10 is the generic tag your friends, but it is specifically a Booktube channel with an amazing name, plus tag your friends. So the two that I went with, it's possible that these people have already been tagged because Chaz may have tagged them or somebody else may have tagged them, but the ones that I wanted to go with, and they don't have to do it if they don't want to, I just like their channel names and I like to shout them out when I can. So one of them is Liam's Lyceum. I think that's a great titled name. I like alliteration. I like Liam. Lyceum is a very literary word as well. And yeah, so that's one of them. And then the other one is Books with Genghis Khan. And this is just a clever channel name because the person who runs the channel is named Ben. I think it's a clever title, or clever channel name as well. And so I like that one as well. So those are the two people that I'm going to tag on this one. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.